she's just not built for the physicality of this league.
Yeah.
And she's not quick enough to get away from the physicality. So there's a lot of learning.
Let's set the record straight right away. It wasn't Caitlin Clark who fell short against Connecticut. It was truly Connecticut that ended up losing out on Caitlin Clark.
Completely believe they lost a golden opportunity. You could have got one of those 12 spots. Now look, every woman on that team is deserving.
She's the kind of player destined to completely rewrite NCAA history. Yet she never once got that dream phone call she was hoping for from Geno's program at Connecticut, and his staff only reached out to her AU coach a handful of times, never contacting her directly and never contacting her family either. And years down the line, that same coach openly questioned whether she was truly ready for the women's game, only to watch her firmly silence every single one of those doubts with one of the greatest rookie seasons the league has ever witnessed. So was passing on Clark simply a calculated basketball decision, or does it stand as one of the biggest recruiting regrets in modern sports history? And today we're going to uncover the missed call, the controversial comments, and the incredible rise that followed right after. Because every recruiting story really does have two versions, the one told by the program that won, and the one told by the player who got away. And this particular story has both sides, and remarkably they agree on almost everything. Since growing up, Caitlin Clark genuinely had just one program in mind, and it wasn't Iowa, and it wasn't any of the dozen schools that would eventually come chasing after her. It was Connecticut, and she said this plainly in her own words years after the fact, that she loved the Huskies. She truly believed they were the coolest place on earth, and more than anything, she simply wanted to be able to say she had once been recruited by them.
Just that she leads D1 with 115 three-pointers this season, or that she's shooting 38.2%.
That's exactly the part most retellings tend to leave out. She didn't just have a preference for Connecticut. She specifically craved their attention. She wanted that personal call, and it simply never arrived. Not once, not to her directly, and Clark herself has laid out precisely what unfolded, explaining how Auriemma's staff reached out to her AU coach only a handful of times. A second-hand gesture passed through a middleman rather than a direct connection, and nobody from the program ever actually spoke to Clark herself. Nobody ever reached out to her family. And for a prospect who ranked 4th nationally in her entire high school class, that's simply not some minor oversight. That's a deliberate decision, and Auriemma himself has never once denied it. And even now, when people bring up why his staff chose to walk away from a player who would eventually go on to rewrite the NCAA's all-time scoring record for good.
Clark, she fires, and it goes! She hit it! Wow!
He never insisted that he'd somehow failed to notice her or that his scouting staff had simply glossed over her talent. Instead, he explained that he'd already given his word to Paige Buchers, the #1 recruit in that very same class, and he wasn't willing to divide the backcourt before either player had even set foot on campus. And in his own words, he felt it would have been foolish to promise Buchers the ball only to turn around and chase a second point guard behind her back. And that's a fair enough basketball decision on its own, but it's also unmistakably a deliberate choice, not some oversight, not a missed evaluation, but rather a program looking directly at Caitlin Clark and deciding that someone else simply came first. And what turns this from a defensible call into something that still lingers today is what Auriemma said afterward. Because when he was told that Clark still genuinely wanted Connecticut, he didn't express any regret at all. Instead, he shifted the responsibility onto a teenager, saying that if she truly wanted to come, she should have picked up the phone and called him herself. And he even added that neither of them really lost out, that she made the right decision for herself, and that everything worked out just fine. So think carefully about who was actually saying all of that. A coach whose entire legacy had been built on discovering talent long before the rest of the sport ever caught on spotting a prospect inside some small, unnoticed gym and securing her commitment years ahead of every single rival program. And that exact skill is what ultimately built every one of his 11 championship runs.
That built 11 championships.
For over 3 decades, one name has defined the standard for excellence in college basketball: Geno Auriemma. Coach Auriemma has won 11 national championships, been to 23 Final Fours,
The very same skill that once landed Diana Taurasi, Maya Moore, and Brianna Stewart before rival programs could even finish dialing their first phone call. And yet in the one single recruitment that would ultimately matter more than any other in the sport's entire modern history, the man famous for finding talent this time simply waited around for the talent to come find him instead. And to be fair to the decision itself, it's worth remembering that the recruiting class Auriemma was navigating that particular year was unusually stacked and deep, featuring Buchers, Clark, Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, and Camila Cardoso, all of whom would go on to become first-round talents, national award winners, or often both at once. So betting everything on just one player from that incredibly loaded group was hardly a reckless move at all. And it's worth noting that Buchers herself would go on to claim National Player of the Year honors.
So on behalf of the Atlanta Tip-Off Club, it is my honor to present the Jersey Mike's Naismith Women's Player of the Year award to Paige Beckers of the University of Connecticut. Congratulations, Paige.
That freshman year bet clearly paid off for Connecticut, and Auriemma's basketball logic held up fine on its own. But the explanation he gave for walking away from Clark entirely didn't hold up nearly as well, since it shifted the blame onto a 17-year-old rather than onto the program that never called her. And he essentially told the country her absence from stores was her doing, not theirs, and she let it go quietly. No rebuttal, no complaint, simply redirecting her recruitment toward Iowa, a program that had never come close to what Connecticut had won. And that choice changed everything, because what looked like a consolation prize from the outside actually gave her room to run an entire offense rather than fit into someone else's system. And across 4 seasons, she became the all-time leading scorer in NCAA history, across every division, won back-to-back Player of the Year honors, and led Iowa to consecutive championship games for the first time ever, with the clearest proof arriving that April, when Iowa faced Connecticut in the national semifinal, and Clark finally met Buchers, the two guards Auriemma once said couldn't share a backcourt, and Iowa won by 2. In the exact matchup he'd built his recruiting class to avoid. And numbers alone don't capture what those years did for the sport, as sold-out arenas and record TV audiences followed her everywhere. None of it driven by marketing, but by one player building an audience from nothing, and every advantage Connecticut once offered, Clark built for herself at a program that had none of it, which made her impossible to frame as just another name on Connecticut's list. And by her final season's Carver Hawkeye Arena was selling out consistently with waiting lists that never used to exist, all without Connecticut's network or TV deals behind her. Proving that kind of following only gets built by someone who has to build it herself, using nothing but what she did on the court. Then came the draft, where the first overall pick went to the Indiana Fever, though the league hadn't yet figured out how to talk about her. And just 2 months into her career, Geno Auriemma appeared on the Dan Patrick Show and delivered something far harsher than scouting analysis, claiming Clark was on the wrong team with the wrong skill set to handle the league's physicality, and calling her supporters, in his own words, a delusional fan base, insisting the hype had set her up for failure. And while his underlying concern about rookie physicality was fair, the word he chose for her audience wasn't measured at all, since delusional isn't a word used to protect people, it's one used to dismiss them, and the backlash was swift, with commentators noting that his own words did exactly what he claimed to warn against, publicly lowering a rookie's ceiling before she'd played 2 full months, especially given the timing, right after she'd absorbed a flagrant foul from Kennedy Carter. And while physicality genuinely is a tough adjustment for any rookie, wrong team, wrong skill set, and set up for failure weren't hedges. They were bold, specific predictions about a player who hadn't yet had the chance to answer them on the court. Taurasi's comment, the one Auriemma cited as backing, came from a 2-decade veteran and Olympic gold medalist who genuinely earned the right to speak on professional physicality. And while her warning carried real weight, Auriemma attaching an insult to it, aimed at the fans themselves, turned a fair caution into a PR problem of his own making, since fans didn't invent the legend comparisons, media did. And Clark herself consistently deflected the hype, simply wanting her game to speak. A detail that got lost as coverage fixated on the word delusional. So whose expectations was he really correcting? And she'd get her answer soon enough, because the scoreboard did the talking instead, with Clark named Rookie of the Year on 66 of 67 votes, earning first-team All-WNBA honors, and finishing 4th in MVP voting against seasoned veterans. So how does a rookie with the wrong skill set finish 4th in an MVP race full of proven pros? And nobody who made that prediction ever had to. Answer for it: since wrong team, wrong skill set up for failure, none of it held, as she closed her rookie year averaging roughly 15 and 6/10 points, 6 and 4/10 assists, and 5 and 1/10 rebounds, numbers that would impress even a seasoned veteran. She also turned the Fever into a playoff team for the first time in nearly a decade, with their opening postseason game drawing close to 2 million viewers and the next pulling roughly 2.5 million, a league cable record at the time. Numbers no mismatch player produces, but ones a franchise builds a business plan around. And since Auriemma isn't some outsider, but a coach who's developed more elite talent than almost anyone alive, his doubt carried real weight, which makes the gap between his prediction and her season more than a simple miss. And a single bad prediction might be forgettable, but a pattern isn't, since in the years after, he kept bringing her up unprompted, once explaining away the physical treatment she received by claiming she talked plenty of trash herself. And even a year later, he was still clarifying what he'd meant by delusional, still insisting she'd never actually claimed to be the sports savior in the first place, trying to separate her real behavior from the hype. The player he never called became the one he couldn't stop talking about, and none of this makes him a villain exactly. Nobody's accusing him of fabricating anything. Every quote is public record in his own name, which is what makes the pattern worth noting. Since this isn't clickbait taken out of context, it's a Hall of Fame coach repeat